Do you wish somebody wrote down the recipe for your parenting challenges? Did you want tips and tricks to become a better mama for you and your babies? I know I do. If you're a mother who feels that you are doing the best you can with the hands you've been dealt, but you're still getting it done, then this podcast is for you. I'm so glad you tuned in to Nailed It Motherhood, because we might have the recipe that nobody wrote down. What's up, everybody? You're listening to Nailed It Motherhood podcast, and I'm your host with the most, Tamara Eldridge. How are you all doing, listeners? I hope you're feeling good and feeling great, because I am. Today, we are here with one of my very, very, very good friends and former Totally Gospel radio show co-host, Mercedes Williams. And I am pretty darn pumped about this, okay?
Hey.
Now, she's going to talk about her experience with balancing career and wifehood with being a mother. But you are going to get the raw, genuine chatter of two old friends who both are learning to live this life called motherhood. But before we do that, hey, Sadies.
Hello, everyone. So good to be here. Hey, Tammy.
Hey, boo. I'm so glad that you're here. And thank you for being patient with me as we had to restart the recording because I forgot to hit record.
All good.
But I know you love me, so
Indeed.
You could give me 5-10 more minutes of your time. Thank you. And welcome to the show. I am super happy and excited that you love me enough to join me and release some of your innermost thoughts today. Before we move to your personal parenting journey, I want to share with the listeners about how we met a little bit. We met back in 2006 through United Soul Ensemble. And that is a shout out to Will Dennis at Penn State University. And our bond has truly, truly been going strong ever since.
Indeed.
Yeah, we followed our separate pathways in this adulting thing. But when it's time to get together, we are back like we never left. And that's a real friend, y'all. Yup. I don't know what sign that is, but
it's just a peace sign. We come together in peace. Yes.
Peace, love, and a lot of laughter.
Yes. Hey.
Before we move on to the personal parenting journey from Mercedes Williams, I'm going to read her bio. And then I'm going to share a quick Tabby tale, a little small, short ditty for the listeners and for my friend, just because, you know, my child is crazy. She's silly and she believes in herself, baby.
I love that for her.
Yes, absolutely. Mercedes is the proud wife of Quentin Williams and wise mother of two beautiful brown babies, Kelsey and Madison. She is a boss queen working as subcontracts program manager for Lockheed Martin, basically since birth, but really for the last 15 years. Now, her brains, leadership, and charisma have brought her far, but it was God that really kept her. With that being said, mamas, grandmas, papas, and the village, show some love again for Mercedes.
Woo!
Woo! So, Mercedes.
Yes.
I would like to share a little ditty for you. A ditty. I don't know why I keep saying that. The other day, we are driving into work, right? And it was raining really bad in the city, and I say city of Pittsburgh. We're driving down one of the main streets, and I see 3 deer cross the street as I'm slowly coming up, as to not hit them and, you know, to make sure that they're not trying to do a U-turn and drive through my car, run through my car. So I say, Tavia, look, there are some deer on the side of the road. And she's like, where, mommy? And I show her where to look. And it's raining. And she's like, those are reindeer. And I was like, no, they're deer. When you say plural, deer is still deer. So those are deer. And she said, no, mommy, they are reindeer. And I said, they're just regular deer. But she told me, it's raining, Mom, and you saw the deer. So those are reindeer. And
Period.
period, because like when the 4-year-old corrects you, when she corrects you with authority, you take it and you just let it go. That's not true. But with that little idea, you can let it go. So she does believe that we saw reindeer the other day. I just wanted to
I
share that
love
with
that
you.
for her. Yes, I love her confidence.
Oh,
And
baby,
she had her reasoning down, so I'll
she
take that.
did. That's why I let it go, because it made
Yeah,
sense in her head, and when she said it, it made sense in mine too, because it is
exactly.
raining. So they are
Exactly.
reindeer. Yes, ma'am. But now is the time for you to shine. And hey, if you have any little short stories about your babies that you want to share during your personal parenting journey, I would love to hear about my little nieces. Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
So I'm going to give you the mic and go ahead and share.
All right. So my parenting journey began in December of 2019 when I found out I was pregnant with my very first child. Now, admittingly, I had some pretty mixed emotions because at this time, my husband and I had only been married since March of that same year. So naturally, you want more time to travel and to do the things that you want to do as a married couple before bringing a child into the picture. So it was selfish. My parenting journey started off selfish. Honestly, it was like, I don't know, like, do I really want this? But I also had another friend who was trying intentionally to have a baby, and there's no way I would have admitted to her that, I was second guessing whether I wanted to be pregnant myself, knowing that it's people in this world that truly want children and can't have them. So I got my life together. I got my mind together. I got this flesh under control, and I said, you know what? God, this was your will. So here we are. We're pregnant. We have a baby. So, went through the process. And then let's track the timing. I said December of 2019. So that means COVID was coming in a few short months after that. So about March 2020, everything started shutting down. So that was 3 months, ish of finding out. So, my child was born in COVID later, August 2020. But she's been such a blessing, during that time, we would have been stuck in the house anyway. We wouldn't have been out there traveling in an airplane or doing anything that we thought we were doing. But God knew when he wanted to bring her into this world. And she came into this world ready, feisty, smart, excited, all the energy she brought to our lives. And, couldn't have timed it perfectly because let's be honest, we tracking on the other side. We're 35 now. If I wouldn't have had her at 31, I'd be questioning my life choices, in terms of when I'm going to have a child. But God brought her in the world when he wanted her here. And then shortly thereafter, February 2023, my second child was born. And so she's also a blessing. And so I'm a mother of a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, soon to be 1-year-old. And I would not have it any other way. And so I haven't been a mother for a long time, but I feel like having been through COVID with this child, you kind of got to times that by 2 because they were in the house with you for 2 years straight. Okay. You weren't sending them to daycare. They were in the house with you. So you had to learn that you got a crash course.
Yes,
So
baby.
that's how I entered motherhood, on steroids, really. So no, but it's been a blessing, and it's just really been a big balance on how much we ingest from this world. Like, I have a Christian background, and you're taught how to raise your children by way of the word of God. But a lot of times in our millennial counterparts, they have different philosophies on how they choose to raise their children. And so I know that it's just going to be a big balancing act for me as my kids get older, the things we allow them to do, the things we expose them to, how we discipline them, just the whole 9 yards. And so my biggest lesson in motherhood so far, though, has been balancing self-care, balancing being a wife, balancing my career, and making sure that I'm applying, not equal all the time, but applying diligence and being a good steward over each area of my life, and not resenting one for the other the whole way through. And I think that's where I am now. That's what I'm learning to do, incorporating exercise, but also being a good employee to my people that's on my team, being a good wife to my husband, taking time with my children, playing, allowing them to help me cook, even when it slows me down, like all the things. So it's been a big balancing act, and I don't have all the answers, but God is faithful, and he's giving me wisdom in different areas on how I could be the best version of myself in every area that I'm called to show up in. And I think that that's where I am in this parenting journey. That's where I am. That's my journey so far. It's a short journey so far, but I'm looking forward to many, many more years with my children.
Well, thank you for sharing that. You said a lot, even though you've only been a mother for 3.5 years.
Yes.
But let's be honest, Mercedes, you've always had the mother spirit. Let's be honest, because I think I've mentioned that I was the choir director for United Soul Ensemble before, but in case people don't know, I used to direct the choir, so you would assume that I was the leader. I was a leader. Now, mind you, I was a leader, but I had a hot head. And thank you for being quiet. You said, that's why I'm going to pause and just, reflect on life.
You were great. You had to have what the spirit you had was needed for the group we had. So, period.
Girl, thank you. Thank you so much for having my back. But I said all that to say, sometimes in our group of friends, Mercedes was the one to had to wrap us up. It was you and it was Miss Shortney. Mm-hmm. And y'all had to bring it in and reel it in sometimes and remind us who we were and what our purpose was, baby. Like,
Amen.
You always had the mother mentality. It's just now you have the children to follow and add to that personality. So it's all good. It is all good.
Thank you for saying that. I guess I didn't realize that. My grandmother said something very similar to me when I had Kelsey 3 years ago. And she was like, I wasn't a natural mother, but you are a natural mother. And I think that was like one of the biggest compliments that I could get, was that I'm a natural mother, but didn't really know how to take it, because to me, she was always a sufficient mother. So it was funny that she thought of herself not a natural mother, but she was able to see something in me that I guess I didn't see in myself. And, even in those hard moments, that those words alone fuel me into just falling back to who I am from a natural perspective. So
it's definitely nice to take compliments like that and reflect on them and use them when you need them. Mm-hmm. I think I can relate to her, though, because I don't think I'm a natural mother. I feel like whatever that means, because what does that mean?
Right.
I'm naturally a mother. I birthed my child.
Right.
But it's something that it's not innate. The qualities of a mother are not innate to me whenever I'm dealing with the big personality of my child. Mm-hmm. So there are a lot of challenges, and I don't think that I have I know I don't have all the answers, which is why I started Nailed It Motherhood podcast. I don't have, and I'm not saying that you have all the answers. Mm-hmm. So let me be completely open and honest when I say that, because I don't want anybody to think, well, I brought Mercedes on because she knows it. She got all the answers. Not one of us on this earth who is a mother, is a father, is an employee, is a child has all the answers. Otherwise,
No,
what are we here for? So moving
exactly.
on. Right. Um, but it's some people really take on the loving, nurturing qualities stronger than some of the other qualities. I feel like
Yeah.
sometimes I'm a little too hard. And that
Mhm.
could be because of my upbringing.
Mhm.
It could be because of all the leadership roles that I did have where I had to be hard. And
Right.
I had to be because people would take advantage of me if I wasn't. But also I had to let them know that I really mean what I'm saying and I need to be firm in my delivery. Um,
Mhm.
and I think that's frowned upon sometimes now. So
Yeah. That's why I said it's a balance. Our millennial philosophies don't jive all the time with how we were raised and what the Bible says, quite frankly, about raising children. And I know that's a sticky subject, but um, back to what you were saying about us not having all the answers, I really believe in the power of the village. And, no matter what community you have around you, your community is whoever you surround yourself and who you surround your children with. But I know for me, that happens to be my natural family. And it's also my church family. And it's people who have been in our lives, like even at the daycare center and things of that nature, who have become a part of our village. And so that's key because I learn things from them all the time, like how they entreat their children, like how they re-up on their patients, just anything, like any tips or tricks I can get and can leverage in my home. Like I try to employ that as best I can. So
what would you say is one of the best tips or tricks that you have received from the seasoned generations?
yeah, so I think there's two that stick out from an older woman at my church who everyone affectionately calls Aunt. I won't say her name, but Aunt whomever, right? And so she is a big advocate on allowing children to be children. And so we want them to grow up so quickly, and she'll just be like, she's acting like a child. She's acting like her age. She's only 3. Why are you expecting her to act 8 or 10? Like, instead of the children's been sitting in church for 2 hours, let them run around after service. Like, let them. How long do you want them to sit down? Like, so she's just realistic in that way, and she's in the early childhood education field, but she also had children of her own, so like she was able to give that perspective. Because you're right, they just sat in church for 2 hours, quietly perfect little angels, and now you want them to keep sitting for another hour or two just because they're running around or the volume of their voice isn't to your liking. Like, she's like, get some perspective, basically. Like, and
Yeah.
I appreciated that because it's just like, yeah, you're right. Like, they're kids. Like, let them be kids. And a second piece of advice was from Instagram. And she said, you can be angry, but don't be mean. And I feel like a lot of times as parents, we allow our anger to fuel the energy we're giving to our children. And so, and she was just like, if you practice not being mean when you're angry, your kids are going to practice the same thing. Because what we find out is a lot of times our toddlers even have very strong emotions. They don't know how to settle themselves. They start yelling, tantrum, screaming, whatever. But that's because they have misplaced emotions. They don't know what to do with all of that they're feeling. So I was just like, okay, I started saying that to my toddler. Hey, when you're angry or upset, that does not mean you have to be mean. You can talk to me and tell me what you need, but we won't be mean. We won't use mean words. Because she started saying things like, I'm not your daughter anymore. Like, where did you learn this from? Like, like that's mean. Like, you can't withhold your love from someone just because you don't like what's happening today. And because you could see that escalating quickly as an adult. It's like in our relationship, that's be a little dysfunctional in that way. Oh, I don't like what happened. Now I'm withholding my love from you. Whether it be a sister, a brother, a boyfriend, a husband, whomever, we begin to pull back. But I want to teach her how to, deal with how she's feeling in a healthy way. And so my first, we're going to do baby steps. So that's my first one, anger. What do we do with anger? I can feel this way, but I won't project that on others. Like I'll figure out how to work that through. So that's been like two that the season we're in, that's the two that I'm using right now. Let them be kids and help her help her learn how to deal with her anger. So that's what we're dealing with today.
Yeah, those are on time.
Amen.
No, those are really on time. Now Tavia's 4, but she's at the tail end of the toddler years into the little kid years, preschool age, whatever phase you call this.
Yeah.
And she is the youngest. Well, she was the youngest in her class. And I don't ever want to say her school on the podcast just because I don't need anybody trying to find her.
Exactly.
But she was the youngest, and she had to mature, and now she's a little bit older than some, but still younger than a lot. That's just because of where her birthday falls. And navigating through her emotions, I feel like it's hard for both of us because they change depending on where she is. So I've put her in an after school program, and several different ages there. So sometimes I go in and she's spoken so highly of. She was such a leader today. She was telling the kids to do this and to do that. And she asked them, what did the adults say? Blah, blah, blah. Now that was day 1, baby. I was like, go ahead, boo. But then I'll come in and tell her it's time to go. So now she's running away from me and she's doing this, and now she's screaming and she throws herself on the floor, which I still don't understand. Like, doesn't that hurt? Like, why are we throwing ourselves? I'm confused.
Yes.
But teaching kids to regulate their emotions, I feel like is huge.
Yeah.
But my question to you is, when did you learn to regulate your emotions so that you could be the example? Because I feel like we can't teach them these important facts of life and elements of life if we can't model it.
Yeah.
So when were you able to learn that, and how has that helped you to model it?
Yeah. Great question. So I feel like I'm still learning it. But when I noticed it and felt a need to address it was when I didn't like my response to something that she did. So I recognized how upset I was, how I was responding to her. And I was like, we're put on this earth as their parents to teach them along the way. They've only been here, like in my case, she's only been here for 3 years. Do you think she know everything she needs to know at 3 years old?
Right.
You surely didn't. And
No,
there's
I
still,
did, though.
yeah, exactly. But no, like I know how I feel as an adult, or how I felt as a young adult, as a teenager, as a kid, being misunderstood. So what I've learned to do is, I know our parents, this wasn't a fan of this. My parent wasn't a fan of this. What was asking questions or being able to share how she was feeling in a moment. So I'll say, wait, why are you doing that? And sometimes the answer is, I don't know, which that's when I help her work through that. But then sometimes she'll say, because I wanted to. Well, let's work on that. So it depends on what place she's coming from on how I respond to her, because they're smart kids these days. Like they have up the ante. They putting us to shame. So we can't be, we can't be manipulated by their actions, but we also, I think, taking an opportunity to understand where they're coming from is a big step. And I think as the big bad adult, sometimes we don't want to subject ourselves to that because we don't, I'm the adult or I'm in charge, and kind of like power tripping a little bit. But I see it as, no, let's get a firm understanding of where she's coming from so that we can help her sort this out. So I would say, once I didn't like my response to something, I've learned to slow down and demonstrate the behavior I would like her to demonstrate. So, if she has a lot of energy and she's acting, malicious a little bit, I have a calming corner in my house. Thanks Target, thanks to the Bullseye Playground. They had the little feelings charts last year, and I bought them and I put them on the wall. And I say, go sit there for 5 minutes. And Alexa, set a timer for 5 minutes. And I make her sit there and Alexa started. Alexa, stop.
Alexa, mind your business.
But yes, exactly. So I'll set it. And because the sound is something she can hear, now she knows I'm not getting up until, Alexa goes off. And if I don't want that action again, I change my action. So sometimes it takes 3 or 4 of those for her to get it, but that's kind of where we're at. And we're still working through it. We're not there by a long shot. But to your point, when she's around other adults or in a classroom, she may not demonstrate that behavior home 100% of the time, but it's translating when she's outside of our home. And I think that's almost more important to me than her doing it, because it is showing that the training is working. And so it's a training, it's a learning. Train up a child in the way they should go. It don't say beat them to death until they get it. Training, just like when we're at work, it takes intentionality. It takes time. It takes, do you have any questions? It takes, is there something I could re-explain to you? Like, that's training. And teaching, training, discipline is teaching. It's not hitting. So it's just like our first response shouldn't be to hit them. Right. And so, I'm going to tell y'all, I believe in the Bible. Spare the rod, spoil the child. But not in an abusive sense. Mm-hmm. It's my first go-to is to teach. And it's to teach until I'm sick of teaching. We get sick of teaching, and that's a part of our problem. Like, I told you that already. Like, I shouldn't have to tell you again. But how many times did I have to be told to put that up, pick that up, wash this dish, pick your shoe up, for me to even notice him as an adult in my house, pick the shoe up, move it out the door so nobody don't trip. It's a it's a concept that seems like wax on, wax off. Like, don't feel like nothing happening until you go to make that first swing, and then you realize you ducking naturally. That's all it is. So, that's a long-winded way to answer your question, but I hope I did.
No, it's not though. It was thorough, and I appreciate it. But I'm sighing because I don't know where I want to jump in and ask a question.
Okay, I see.
So I'm going to ask these questions and hope you remember both of them. Okay. You were saying that you had to be taught and you had to be trained. Mm-hmm. As you are parenting, do you see your mom coming out of you?
Oh, yeah.
How does that make you feel?
Oh, man. It makes me want to apologize to her at times. Like, I'll legitimately be like, my bad, Mom. I didn't really feel like, even at Kelsey's tender age of 3, the talking back, I know for sure I had talk back sessions, but I felt like I wasn't until 14. I think I was at least 15, 16.
Right.
Trying to give that smoking energy.
Somebody. I didn't start that young. I don't care what y'all say.
I did not start that young. I know it. And so I just was like, man, I'm getting it back. Like, it's starting early. Because I could just hear my dad say, stop talking back to us. Stop talking back. And I'm just like, I'm not talking back. But you are talking back. And Kelsey is quick to say, but she don't even have a response yet. But it's already. Like, that's her first, like, I'm ready to go. But no, I do see my mom coming out. Yeah, she's reserving her space.
She's like, I know I'm going to come up with something, so let me just hold it. But...
like, girl, you don't even
have anything to say.
Right. And I just be looking at her shaking my head, but I know I'm getting it back. And yes, I see my mom coming out, and I'll use a phrase she has used for us, like from, back in the day, and she'll start laughing and she'll be like, don't say that to my granddaughter. I'm like, yeah, said it to me. So
we'll have from the best.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. So we have some funny moments over that, like me saying to Kelsey, what she used to say to us, and that's a funny moment. So
that's hilarious.
But it's all good. It's, they say you turn into your mother. So,
So my thing is, there's 4 of us. Can we all be her?
Right.
We can. But So I can't remember exactly the wording on this question that I wanted to ask you, but it
Okay.
was in reference to training and teaching as you do at work.
Mm-hmm.
Um, have you ever considered like 30-day, 60-day, 90-day check-ins? Not technically, but
Mm.
you know what I mean, like
Yeah.
check-ins to see, hey, let's talk about these skills that we talked about in December. How do you feel about them? Not necessarily that wording, but have you
Right.
ever considered doing check-ins? Because your analogy of training your child like you get trained at work is key, because you have a grace period to learn,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
we come at kids as if they're just supposed to know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I like that idea of a check-in. Like you said, for the kids, it's probably like the 30, 60, 90. I hear your intent behind that. But yeah, I guess informally that does happen in a way because, and how I know this is funny. I don't know if you've ever seen this show. I feel like it was a relatively new show, and it was like they were trying to find the best parenting method, in America, and forget what it's called. It's The Parent something. But it came on like ABC. I watched it on Hulu, like after it was already recorded.
Mm-hmm.
But they had an exercise on there that they had the parents do, and it was like, let your child be you for the day. And so they had, I think it was like 3 no's, 3 yeses that they could do throughout the day, and the kids knew the rules. I mean, the kids were as young as 6, 9. So they were like, they knew enough to know that they had the power, authority for the day. But a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the kids were just giving back what they hear their parents do. So they were essentially mimicking their parents. So to your point about, is it sticking? So Quentin and I did this exercise in a condensed version with Kelsey for like 15 minutes at night. And we said, how does mommy and daddy sound? And it was just so funny. She had the wording, the context, everything down pat, and was giving us this energy back. And we were like, do we sound like that to you? She's like, get over there right now. I heard you. Don't say what. Like all the little, the things we say to her,
Yeah.
good, bad, indifferent, right? And so that let me know she's hearing and she's listening. So that did 2 things for me. It helped me to see that what we're saying is sticking and it's impactful, but it also allowed me to be more conscious of how I am speaking to her and what my intent is, because she is old enough to understand, what we're saying. And so we just have to make sure she understands it to the point where she's doing it, like she's executing it. And so she loved those 15 minutes of being the parent. Like she was like, you're Kelsey, I'm mommy. And like she did me, and then she did her dad. You're Kelsey, I'm daddy. And then she did him, and it was just remarkable the amount of things she remembered from us saying. It was wild. So yes, I do believe in that. I think that's a good exercise to see how they're tracking to what you're saying, and it's also a good exercise to see what they understand and what they don't understand.
Yeah.
So, because you'll hear it, but it may not be in the right context, and you'll be like, okay, I got to teach that one again. So,
Let me take notes. Hold on. I like that. I have never considered that. Like, I hear what she's picking up when she's playing.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Especially when she's playing with her Barbie dolls and she brings Ken in, and then Chelsea or whatever. She'll be like, Ken, I need you to do this for Chelsea. Chelsea, are you ready for some breakfast? Do you want some eggs? Okay, you can't have that, blah, blah, blah. So it's very, like, she has extensive conversations. They love play and they love mimicking. And
Yes.
put the 2 together and baby, you got a storyline.
Period. Yes.
So I like that idea. It's probably scary for me, but I do like that, because then I can really, I said jokingly, take notes, but I can really reflect on who I'm showing my child that I am.
Yes.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Yes. And the show was called The Parent Test. And so
Okay.
I rewatched it on Hulu. That's the show. I'm sorry that I forgot that earlier. But The Parent Test, it was like, like reality TV, basically. So it had probably 10 episodes or so. And they eliminated the parent, the pair of parents or a parent each one, based on how their kids responded and reacted. And they had like 8 parenting styles and one won out. So,
Interesting.
yes,
I definitely
I
want to check
enjoyed
it
it.
out.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have 2 more questions. I have a lot more questions, but 2 more questions for the sake of time.
Okay.
The first question, and it might have follow-up questions once you answer. So, time. How do you and Quentin come together to come up with your household regulation for parenting?
I feel like in part we kind of set a foundation at the beginning. Like we knew that this was one of the areas where marriages sink or swim. And so people always say, oh, parents have 2 different methods of parenting and so you guys got to come together and figure out what works for you and your household. I will say the theoretical conversation pales in comparison to the execution of it all. But we kind of had a framework. We both agreed in discipline. We both agreed on the Bible. We both agreed to teach our children from a Christian context. So we agreed on the fundamental areas. Nonetheless, there are still areas where we differ, and we do have to have a conversation. So, it's like he'll handle a situation one way, and I'll be like, why are you talking to my baby like that? Or like I'll handle a situation one way and he'd be like, that was soft. Like you gotta come, harder than that, or she going to take advantage. So we'll try to tweak each other's methods a little bit, but at the end of the day, he always says this. He says, between the both of us, she's getting what she needs. Whether it's that tough love in that moment or whether it's that nurture in that moment. And we switch roles too. Like it's not just all mommy, all daddy one way or the other. But when we do disagree, we're trying to get better to like take that offline, meaning we're not correcting each other or trying to adjust each other in front of the children now that they're getting older. Because even Kelsey can pick up on it at this age. She's like, well, I can go to my mommy and ask her. Or I can go to my daddy and ask him. Or like, I'll ask them in different rooms and can already like start that kind of manipulation. So what I'm learning to do, because it's mainly me, because you'll learn as a wife and as a mother, I'm the one that wants to always handle things in the moment. So I have to learn to stop, even if I'm feeling some type of way, just be like, okay, let's pocket that until we're alone or, the girls are asleep, and then we can talk through what transpired. So I feel like we're still having conversations that, about our methods and how we choose to enact them. And I'll share with him the things I'm finding and he'll share with me. And so it's still in process, honestly. But yes, that's an important aspect, or else you'll feel like the other person is always trying to, overcome you or do it better than you or like do it differently than you. But they're different doesn't mean it's worse or it's better. It just means that's the way they're doing it. So
Yes, I have follow up.
okay.
So the initial conversation about your parental foundation, was that pre-marriage or pre-baby or the baby's here, let's figure this out?
I would say all of the above.
Nice.
It was pre-marriage. It was like, because that conversation pre-marriage was like, first of all, do we want to have kids, right? And then it was like, yes, we both want kids when the Lord says so. But it's also, okay, well, how do you discipline? How do you see yourself disciplining your kids? It's all that hypothetical. And then in marriage, it was like, oh, and once we have kids, it's like, how'd you say you wanted to discipline again? You just like checking, doing a pulse check. And then once the baby gets here, they're just so sweet and they're there and they're so small and you can't imagine them acting up and cutting up. So you get kind of like 6 months of that, right? And then they switch on to personalities, and then you're like, oh,
Well, you
wait.
found yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I'm quick to be like, that's you all the way. That is your everything she showed is you. And he hates when I do that sometimes because like I'll do it at the wrong time sometimes. I'm like, that's you. So don't get mad at her because that's definitely you. Exactly. So I'll be quick, but I have to get better at that. Instead of like just I know that's not the time or the place, but I'm like, you're dealing with yourself right now. Like own it. But
That's the Sadie's I know.
yes. Own it.
No. We're going to deal with it. Come on.
Yes. And I got to learn when and how to deal because when I'm ready to deal, everybody may not be ready to deal. And I think that's been the biggest thing I've learned in marriage because he's a processor. So even if we're having a disagreement, he needs time to process it. Like I'm ready to talk it out just so I can get it off my chest. But it don't work like that because if he's angry still, is us talking about it is just going to make him more upset. So we've learned how to give each other the space we need to process it how we need to. So
nice. So your parenting tactics have evolved as your relationship has evolved, and
yes,
that's pretty awesome. So
yes,
I mean, I feel like that's also important for other parents to hear, myself included. Like I had a plan. This is how it's going to be, boo. And my child is like, no, it's not, though. And I'm like, okay, let me go back to the drawing board.
That's what he said. That's what he was like. If you have a sensitive child versus if you have a child who need to, he's like, because Kelsey is me, he was like, I know how to deal with her. Like, I know what she's going to respond to. Wow, I might think sometimes, well, you just don't need to say it like that. Whatever it is, like, he knows what got him together as a young person. Because that was not my personality type, I'm like, just show her love, just embrace her, just be like, nah, she gonna run all over you with that response. Like, so we really have to understand where we are. And I think Maddie, I might have a shot with her she's closer to my personality type, but she's still very strong-willed and still very like, like when she gets hyped, she's hyped. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay.
Exactly. So maybe I'll have a chance to use how I think I want it to be handled with her, as a person, who was like her. So we'll see. It's still a test. She's only 11 months, so we gotta figure that one out. But yeah.
Parenting is an experiment.
It is.
Let's just keep them alive, right?
Period.
The last question, and then we are going to move on to tea time. I don't know how I want to ask this question exactly, but during your actual Her Story segment, you shared about the balance of self-care, of being a wife, of having a career, and being a mom. You talked about applying diligence and being a steward, but not resenting one thing over the other. I found that to be very powerful, that whole thought. What are the methods that you've used to not resent any of these things? These are the things that you chose in your life. What are the things that you do to make sure that you are not like, ugh, I can't be a mom anymore, or, oh, this was the wrong idea, or, oh my God, I don't even like you, husband. What are you doing to not resent?
Yeah. I think how you don't resent is that you practice gratitude, even when you don't feel like it. I was reading a devotional. I don't know if you're familiar with Jackie Hill Perry, but she put out a devotional, like a 60-day devotional in a book form. And I don't know what day this was, maybe 10 or 11. But she had a statement in there that was very powerful. And I'm going to read it because I don't want to mess it up. But it stated the following. She said, find joy in the diversity of God's generosity. So she was basically trying to her topic that she was talking about was jealousy, and how we can avoid being jealous is by understanding that God gives everybody a portion. And so be grateful for the portion, and, observe his generosity for others, knowing that he could still do it for you as well. And so I remember when I was in a position where I wanted to be married. And what we always say, Q and I, is, we're living our prayers. We are living our prayers. So why, when we get in these tough moments, we forget that? And so we remind ourselves by saying, thank you, Lord, for my husband. Thank you for his health. A couple months ago, he was in the hospital. Thank you for my husband. My daughters, I remember her choking on a pear when she was 8 months. Thank you for her life. I remember when I wanted to be a subcontracts program manager, when I was a supply chain professional, but I was an intern. Thank you that I made it to that point, that was on my vision board, and I made it to that career, path. And my body, is not where I want it to be in terms of, resenting, having kids, because had perfect shape, at some juncture, didn't think it was the perfect shape when I had it. But when I look back, I'm like, no, that's where I'm trying to get back to.
Yeah.
But being thankful that my body was able to birth 2 children who are healthy and whole, and that the Lord, it did exactly what the Lord designed it to do. And I'm still here to talk about it, because let's not forget, motherhood is traumatic. It's like us having these kids, we're people say it all the time, like, we're between life and death when that baby is passing through the birth canal. So I don't take it for granted. And so I would say the short answer is practice gratitude, but I just felt it necessary. I felt compelled. So I kind of walk through each one and how I do that realistically. Like, that is true prayers. Like, those short prayers, that's gratitude, and I don't ever want to forget that I'm living my prayers that I had in 2010 and 11 and 12 and so on and so forth. So that's how I do it.
I love that idea. I love it because you prayed this. And he gave you what you wanted. How dare you resent what you asked for? I got it. Yeah. I love it. Love it. Girlfriend.
Yes.
The powerhouse that I miss so much.
To God be the glory.
Yes, ma'am. All right. It is time. It is time to play Tea Time. Tea Time.
I'm excited.
I always do my own effects. Thank you so much. I'm a triple threat, baby.
Do it.
Sound effects, a host, a writer. Yay.
Yes. Don't forget singer, dancer, actress.
Shh. I wasn't going to tell all that, but I'm modest.
And I'm humble with it.
Yeah, I was about to say I'm humble. Because isn't that what you used to
humble. Yes. That's our friend Courtney.
Yes. I miss her so much too. Yes. We need to have just a call with all of us together.
Yes, that would be amazing.
That would be awesome. Okay. Tea Time is a game of rapid fire. I've come up with a bunch of questions. Some are deep and some are just for fun. Now, listeners, Mercedes was given access to the questions at the very last minute. I was momming. So she may be in for a complete surprise today. Who knows? But she will have 3 minutes to answer as many questions as she can and give us just a little insight into who she is. Listeners, are you ready? Mercedes, are you ready?
Sí, señora.
Oh, yes, baby. Here we go. First question. What age would you choose to be for the rest of your life and why?
Ooh, 33. Because I'm married, I have my kids, and I have a stable career, and I still have a youthful face. So if I could stay this age and I could still work on me, I would just be fine for life, which is awesome.
Yes, baby. I thought you were going to say because of the Jesus year.
I'm not that deep and spiritual, but thank you, Lord.
How do you want to be remembered?
I want to be remembered as someone who genuinely cared for others. And when people encountered me, they felt better about themselves when they walked away. And that was a lasting feeling that helped them get through whatever day they were having.
Okay, motivational book. Do you believe in love at first sight?
Ooh, child. For some, yeah. I've seen people witness that they've married their loves and had lifelong loves from that. I feel like it can happen for you.
Yes, God.
Yeah.
What's the best way to waste time?
Ooh. I would say reading a book or just watching TV and eating snacks in this stage of life.
Yes.
Putting your feet up, just doing nothing. A massage. I don't know.
That's not a waste, baby.
Yeah, no.
If you could talk to anyone from your past, who would it be?
Ooh. Anyone from my past? Interesting. I don't know. I feel like everybody I want in my life is here, baby. I don't know. I don't have anybody in my past I'm digging back for, honey. Stay there. If you ain't making this far, just stay.
When are you the most secure?
I'm the most secure when I prayed on something and locked in. Like for my husband, I knew that we were meant to be together after much prayer. And so, despite what anybody else thought, I locked in, and look at us now. So,
That's one. At what age did you decide you wanted to become a mom, if at all?
I knew that I wanted to be a mom when I was mid-20s. I knew that that was something that was probably in the cards for me.
Last question. What's your biggest regret as a mom? Interesting.
My biggest regret as a mom sometimes is I see the women who like work out crazily during pregnancy and still come out looking snatched. And sometimes I'd be like, could I have done that? Was I being a lazy pregnant person? Like all the things. I wouldn't say it was a regret, but it's definitely a thought that lives rent free in my head to see if I could have done something differently to, take better care of myself during the actual journey of pregnancy and birthing the child. So take it for what it is, but that's true. That's a very transparent response. But yes.
I like that response. That was a good answer. I never even thought about that. Oh, girlfriend.
Yes, ma'am.
I had so much fun.
Yay, me too. This was great.
I mean, when you responded, you said, because we real friends, and I heard it in the text. So
yeah.
Yes, we are. Yes. And this was necessary. And even in our pre-interview call, we talked about just needing like-minded friends. Like there's the debate between gentle parenting and old school parenting, and we're somewhere in the middle. Like, I don't know which way to go. Like,
yeah.
And when I heard you parent your daughter, I was like, girl, where you been all my life for the last 15 years? I mean, because it's a battle. But anyway, I'm sorry. I went back. I'm thanking you for all of your amazing insight. You are probably the first mom on here that has a child younger than my own, has two children younger than Tavia. And it's really good to have your perspective. And though you are a young mom, just like me, you still have so much wisdom that you provided. I love the fact that you basically talked about learning how not to regret things in your life, choices you've made in your life. I love the fact that you have given out advice and tips and tricks that other people have given, allowing your children to be children, which is crucial. And basically not being angry when you respond, even though you're upset about something, because we don't want to be mean, because if we're modeling mean, then we're going to create mean children. I love it all. Like you just said so much. I thank you. I thank you sincerely and genuinely as a friend, as a sister, because really we are more than just friends. There were many acquaintances that we met when we went to school together, but like we have walked this life together, and now we've opened another door that we can try to walk together and share each other's wisdom with each other. But we're not going to go there that far because I'm giving you the floor now because I know that you have some advice. Just if you wanted to give advice to a parent or parents in 10 seconds, what would you say? So I'm giving you the attention back so that you can share any words of wisdom.
Yeah. I would say, don't feel threatened to change how you're doing things just because you see others doing it a certain way. You know what works for your household, and the way that your child needs the love that you're providing is going to be what's best for them. So be kind to yourself so that, you can be kind to them as well.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Listeners, there you have it. The beautiful and lovely Mercedes Williams. So before you go, I have a few more questions for you.
Yes.
They're simple questions. Is parenting challenging?
Yes.
But are they still standing?
Is alive and well.
So what do you want to proudly say to our listeners?
This mama is nailing it.
Nailing it. So listeners, if you like this episode and you want to hear more personal parenting stories, subscribe to my social media on Instagram and Facebook, and follow us on your favorite podcast platform. And don't forget, we do have a website, and it is naileditmotherhood.com. You can also be a guest on the podcast by completing a guest application. The link is in the bio. We welcome your questions, comments, and ideas, and we certainly hope to keep the conversation going. Until next time, keep on doing what it is that you do. Bye.
Bye. Bye.